You might have a very good family environment, and so therefore we have to see that the cause and the effect are two different issues. Professor Kanagaraj, back to you.
Yes, madam. Yes, 1 minute. I'm coming.
I think we have lost the screen.
Yes, madam. I'm coming.
You might have a very good family environment, and so that. Is it because of the weather that we are having this kind of
Yes,
disturbance?
madam. Yes, madam. Now coming, na? Screen share, na? Yes. Now, the next one is regarding the nature of design. And this one in quantitative research, generally, by and large, we go with the static design. At the outset, we plan. Research questions are fixed. Very specific research questions are hypotheses. Then, very much structured questionnaires, closed questions, and, sample size, where to collect sample, where to, the sampling frame, how to collect sample, how to collect data, how much sample, how much the sample size should be, how to collect data, what are the instruments to be used, what are the analytical tools should be used, how much the report, how the report should be structured. Almost everything is by and large clear. Of course, some flexibility will be always there. So the design is static, very, very rigid. Madam Kalpana.
Yes. As far as qualitative research is concerned, emergent design is one of the key features that we use, and in most of the grounded theory work also you will find this term coming up very often. It refers to the ability of a researcher to draw from the ideas that come up from the field and adapt to these new ideas, and let that impact the way in which you rework your design. Because very often if you go with a fixed idea, it goes against the axiological ways in which we would like to, the basis on which we would like to conduct our research. So when you go into the field with an open mind and want to construct reality either through phenomenological approaches, which is trying to understand the lived experiences of people, so you can't go with a prefixed notion if your whole idea of trying to draw data is going to be what people are experiencing, you want to learn from it. So when you go with that kind of thing, the emerging design helps you to mid-course allow the data that is coming up to you to impact the way in which you would like to rework your design. So that is as far as qualitative is concerned.
Yes, quantitative design is static because its approach is deductive, and it to serve that purpose, we have to keep the design very clear and specific, static. And next thing is assumption is actually the generalization. What kind of outcome, what kind of generalizability, what kind of conclusions we are arriving at, generalizability, time and context free generalization. That means when you do research in Mizoram and a particular point of time, even that one large scale, it will be generally assumed that it will be applicable for future also. Time and context, and even it is assumed that it will be applicable to other parts of that also. History of Europe is believed as the history of trajectory of historical trajectory. They have passed through feudal stage, say slavery, feudal stage to capitalistic to communist stage, that is applicable to all the societies. Generally, even in social work also, whatever methods, techniques, philosophy that is developed in the West, that is applicable to India also. We need not test them also. This kind of generalization is called time and context free generalization. Recently we have come across one professor criticizing us, Bharatiya Karan, when we do, He says enlightenment is universal. He says universal enlightenment happened at a particular point of time, at a particular point of history in Europe. If Europe was in dark ages, how come you assume that India is also in dark age and we need that enlightenment values? I have replied actually like that. So this is very much oriented. Even some people who do qualitative research otherwise, they do such a beliefs. This is belief actually. And quantitative researchers generally want to have nomothetic prediction. That means y is a function of x, like that. Like already I said, poverty. Poverty is due to inequality. This is a Marxian political economy hypothesis that so poverty is due to, higher the inequality in any society, there will be higher poverty. The intensity of poverty will be higher. This is a kind of explanation. This is called nomothetic explanation. And you can add some more factors controlling for the effect of these factors. You will have, suicide determined by the degree of integration, that kind of generalization, time and context free generalization. Though this assumption is there, quantitative research, I don't believe such a thing possible actually. Reality is something volatile. You could see, in geology, you could see cosmology, also cosmic, study of astronomy. You could see the movement of the position of the stars and their changing over the period time. That over the period of time, the positions change. How was the universe at the time during the Vedic period is not the same. The seasons in the Vedic period is not same as today. So even in natural sciences, time and context free generalization is not possible. So I think this is too much actually, Madam Kalpana.
Yes. Yeah, I'm just keeping my video off only because of the bandwidth. But it's very interesting when you look at generalization and how we look at it in quantitative and in qualitative. They are both very particular. I think, Professor Kanagaraj, I speak for you when I say this, that we are not trying to say any one is better than the other. Okay.
Yes.
We are just saying that there are different ways in which we approach research using a quantitative approach and when we are using a qualitative. Now, what is generalization itself? Generalization itself is basically that we are trying to draw broad inferences on abstract information on after having studied something that is applicable across, like we said, across time, across the same. But when it comes to qualitative research, that is not the purpose itself, because we are going in depth into a study of a phenomena or a person or a group of people or their experiences. So when we are saying that, when we are using words like nomothetic versus idiographic ways of understanding is very different. It is based on trying to understand unique quality and aspects, qualitative aspects, as far as cultural phenomena is concerned, or as far as subjective aspects are concerned. So the insights from an idiographic way of looking at things will be very different. It emphasizes the subjective. It emphasizes the unique experiences of an individual. Whereas the monothetic does not look at individual characteristics. It looks at the numerical, right? The statistical ways of understanding knowledge. So these are two different approaches that we are referring to. And so that's why it is very distinct when we are referring to the aspect of generalization. Yes.
So the last set of assumptions are actually, a rhetorical assumption or rhetorical assumption. Some people call rhetorics. Rhetoric is something to do with the language. Even Aristotle talked about rhetoric. So this language actually is very, very important. How we write our research output, research report as such. How do we report our document, our results of the research. When it comes to quantitative research, we try to use a very formal language, third person singular, very impersonal, it's impersonal a voice we use. And, we use very clear, specific definitions, precise definitions. This is what this, you see, this is what this. So that, rigid definitions, we use, and there are specific quantitative words like validation, testing, like that, you see, reliability, validity, all those concepts, they are very much concerned with quantitative research. Certain things, you have to write like this. Significance means P equal to star, 1 star means 5%, 2 means 1%, 1% means 2 star, then 3 star means 0.01%, like that conventions are there, madam. Madam,
can you hear me? Yeah. So this is again the difference between how we look at the language, and where one was very formal, very structured, as Professor Kanagaraj said. Here in qualitative research, it is more informal. There is a language richness, which we have not put it down in the slide, but that's very, very important, that you need to have a depth in understanding the language in which you're writing and the language in which you are using for interviews in qualitative research. All this becomes extremely important. And the personal voice makes a lot of difference. I'll give you a simple, or even the way in which you construct a question. If I were to very quickly, Professor Kanagaraj, am I going past the time? You need to tell me if we are shooting past the time.
How much time, madam, at now? I think we can finish now. Yes.
Yeah. So very quickly, just to give one example. Yeah. If we were to use, say, the tone in which we ask a certain question, we all know, even from our understanding of communication and body language and verbal communication, that it influences the kind of answer that you will get. If you ask the same question in a manner in which it sounds like an instruction, or like you are talking from an authoritative position, you might get a limited kind of answer. When you ask it in a manner, the tone that you are asking it for wanting to learn, you might get a much richer answer. So the personal voice, the tone, the kind of words that we use, all of this has a bearing as far as qualitative research is concerned. Yeah. Should we move on?
Yes. Yeah, I think this we can skip, ma'am, actually.
Yeah, because I think we have said this in a lot of ways, in different ways. Yeah. This also, if you look at it, because it's actually these last 2-3 slides are, in a way, they are kind of summarizing what we have done so far, right? And maybe Professor Kanagaraj, you can conclude with this slide.
When we look at quantitative, qualitative divide paradigmatically, actually, they are poles apart. Poles apart. These are ideal, typical construction. Some scholars have done for, establishing, qualitative approaches were neglected for long, So they were actually trying to construct their own identity and their perspective and the paradigm. So actually, ideal, typical construction is fine for philosophical things, but practically speaking, whether the researchers, qualitative researchers, all qualitative researchers actually believe in that, or all quantitative researchers like me believe in that, it's not necessarily there. And when it looks actually concretely the data, qualitative and quantitative data, qualitative data, naturally occurring data available in abundance, not generated, even without generation also. We speak, TV, video, newspaper, all those data is there regarding what relevant to social work, we have all that. And, only, taking only certain numerical data and neglecting the linguistic data or text data is something not desirable also. So you see the idea of numbers. In Tamil, I used to remember that ennum eluttum kannena tagum. Now numerical numbers and letters are like two eyes. So that is what என்னென்ப ஏனை எழுத்தென்ப கற்றோர் முகத்திரண்டு கண்ணென்ப வாழும் உயிர்க்கு திருவள்ளுவர் says. So for all living beings, that means human beings, numerical thing and literary things, both are knowledge of numbers and knowledge of letters or literature, art and all are equally important, like two eyes. So like that keeping that, this is 2000 years back, a Tamil poet, Sangam poet, later Sangam poet has written, so we need to see that wisdom, actually not actually contradicting these two things as two antagonistic things. And so when you look at the data, numerical data has definitely qualitative meaning in it. And qualitative data, when in course of time, you can meaningfully reduce into numbers also. And ultimately at the end of the day, we have to tell our results in a very qualitative way. So this quantification, even if it is done, that is for the sake of analysis only, making it large chunk of data amenable for analysis, that only. So qualitative and quantitative approaches to understanding the social reality are complementary, and they form a continuum, and then they are done when we work together, and seeing them divide as two poles apart, we lose much, and we gain when we take both the things together. And and particularly when it comes to social work, which has always a human heart, and structural context, also cultural context, behavior and cognition. So social workers, we need to go for combining of them, and division is not necessary. Some people may have more qualitative, some people have less, more quantitative. That is okay, but combining that has a lot of illumination. When we do together, we have got a lot of rich understanding when we combine it.
Yeah. No, I don't think I need to add anything to this. I think what you have said is quite correct.
And now one more question, last question. Many a times researchers ask is that what to choose. There is no problem. We can choose either of them. And that depends upon the nature of the problem and how you look at the problem and what qualities you have. Like Madam Kalpana, with very high level of language proficiency. Then you can go for qualitative research. Language proficiency, English, not only English, our own language also. Our own languages are rich, and we can gain like that. And reading our literature, Tamil literature or Hindi literature, Sanskrit literature, whatever literature, particularly Kavya, modern poetry, ancient, all that has a lot. And we have aesthetics also, theory of aesthetic by Abhinavagupta, a great Acharya from Kashmir, great. We have that kind of resources with us. India has a very rich tradition of Sutra, Vartiga, commentary like that. That interpretative language, interpretative tradition was very sound here. You could see for a poem, 100 pages of interpretation. You could see in Tamil as well as Sanskrit, we had in the past. So we have very good literary tradition, which is supportive of qualitative research also. You could see that actually should be done. And when it comes to choice of research, your own research problem, your own attributes, your guide's expertise, and the technique is available, facilities available there in your thing. and your own understanding. How do you look at reality and whom you want to do research? All these things are important. Whatever may be, I feel combining qualitative and quantitative research, participatory research, giving concern for the social, structural, historical context, cultural context where we work with social workers or social work researchers, that qualitative research is very important. Even if we do quantitative research also, understanding the cultural context, setting and all, that can be done only through qualitative research and participatory research. Madam, conclusion, please.
Yeah, no, I just one thing that I would like to add. It's absolutely correct that now, especially for us as social workers, we do use increasingly more and more of the mixed methods design. But even there, the choice of what we want to use to achieve what purpose, which sequentially what comes first, all of that is determined by the nature of inquiry and the kind of problem that we are taking up. So if we are looking at starting with a qualitative approach and doing something in depth, which will give us an idea thereafter to look at quantitative issues, we have to be very clear as to what, why we are doing that, or vice versa. So I think that is important. And then the audience of research, as we said, who are we writing for? Where ultimately research has to be disseminated, not lie in libraries and bookshelves. And so therefore, what is the larger group? And in qualitative research, the audience of research will also ethically be the people who have contributed to the research. They need to know also how we have constructed meaning out of their experiences, and how are we disseminating, to whom are we disseminating. Maybe one of the things that we have not discussed over here, but which also we need to take back as a takeaway from here, is the ethics of doing both quantitative as well as qualitative research. So with that, Professor Kanagaraj, I am done.
Yes. Actually, thank you. And I think we can have some questions. So many people have raised hands also. Please, any questions you have?
Hello.
Actually, chat box, I don't have time.
Hello.
Please, Arasu, carry on.
Sir, I have few issues and questions. So while we were working on issues of female infanticide, we find that the issue in Madurai among Piramila Kallar, that area was totally different. While at Salem, the problem and the causes and the effects are also some differences you were able to find. Similarly, in Dharmaburi district, there the causal factors are different and the mode of killing also was different. So the point, my question is, the complexity in the cause and effect analysis, it varies from one district to another. Sometimes it varies from one panchayat to another. So how to bring there is diverse variables, or sometimes different variables are sometimes causing. How to design a good research to incorporate the different variables or different diversities while conducting. This is number one. So we also worked in Jharkhand with the different tribes. So each season, for example, TB will cause more in particular season. Malaria, June to December, the disease is caused by malaria. So seasonality, the same is the case livelihood. If you study in particular season, you won't know what is happening in the other race. So how to compromise on these seasonality issues while conceiving and designing the project? Designing a research project, what I mean.
Yeah. If I may ask, did you use any one approach, or did you use a mixed method approach?
Hello?
Yeah. No, I was just going to ask you, since the study is already conducted, for me, let me answer very quickly, briefly, from a perspective of a qualitative point of view. The kind of examples that you have given, Mr. Arsu, is very, very much lends itself to qualitative processes of inquiry. If you take the example of infanticide, and you say that the nature, the manner in which the deaths occur is different across places, you can easily take up a case study and do it across in different places, pick up selectively or purposively illustrative cases that can bring in-depth information, because it also depends, to reiterate what we said, it depends on what is the outcome of this going to impact or help, and what is the audience of research. If you're doing it for a particular program, then you might want to use a certain kind of approach. It might be enough to just explain the kinds of numbers, but using case studies, you can go in depth into understanding various other factors that, or the social determinants that occur across these two districts that you were talking about, or different places, and be able to illustrate that. So as far as infanticide is concerned, when it comes to the issues regarding seasonal variation, besides what we have already told you, that we have discussed both the qualitative and the quantitative approaches, one of the ways in which we use, which I think Professor Kanagaraj mentioned right in the beginning, is using participatory approaches and capturing information on seasonal variation, or looking at trends and doing the kind, because people come up with so much of rich information. So you can begin with participatory methods and then move into other approaches to get more in-depth reports out of these areas. But I think both of these, I thought there's a lot of things that we can do from a qualitative approach also, undoubtedly.
Very clearly, Madam Kalpana Sarathy has given our suggestions. Actually, the first case is regarding the infanticide. You have to begin with the qualitative approach, qualitative understanding, grounding, community level or family level, key informant interviews or case studies, whatever you use, try to understand the particular historical context. It's not suddenly, it has come out, with, available your qualitative methods you can do. So only then only you will be able to understand what is there. And again, you can go for survey and all later, actually. Even survey is not necessary in case of that kind of infanticides, but it's more amenable for qualitative research, as Madam Kalpana Sarathy has already pointed out. And coming to the second one, seasonal variations, we need to study the same phenomena. First phase, as such, Madam Kalpana suggested we can go for seasonal calendar or seasonality measures, because time-related measures are there. Time-related methods of participatory research are there. So you can use them and understand that. And then season-wise, you can do survey, not what at particular point of time. Rather, you need to do recurrent survey, season, and then you can compare what kind of disease incidents are there, what kind of factors are there. All that we can go for study. Okay, that's the thing. Any other question is there? I think we have to go for practical session. Any other questions? Madam, switch on, please. You are unmute.
No, what I was saying is that since we are anyway going to have an opportunity even for me to come back, maybe we can just note down the questions. But since you need to move into your next session, if they can write in the questions and send it to you, and we can always have an opportunity to come back.